Imagine one day you woke up to squeaking and scratching noises in your home in the middle of the night. Little droppings on the floor, a couple not pieces of food scattered here and there. It's obvious. A rat, or at the very least a mouse, has decided to infest your home. While some of us might want to deal with such a problem by ourselves, there are others who will much rather pay someone else to do it, most likely a pest removal service company. You raise your phone, dial in the number, and wait to be connected with an operator towards which you're going to describe your problem, so that the operator can identify it and send your way the best solution. Home Safety Hotline is a game where we take the role of such an operator. Within the span of a week, we will take in phone calls from various individuals, and our task will be to identify the correct issue by using a limited amount of information. As we progress to the game, we begin unlocking further and further pest database entries that will begin straying more and more from the traditional mice and cockroaches, including but not limited to giant slugs, mischievous gnomes, and terrifying monsters. If the premise sounds fun, I will suggest to try the game yourself. It takes about 4 hours to complete, which I will recommend doing in a single sitting. It's a great experience if you enjoy reading database type of entries on fantasy creatures, while also being slowly exposed to a mystery related to your company through subtle clues and videos. The game clearly takes inspiration from analog horror, a genre which has become increasingly popular over the years on YouTube. It personally reminded me of Vitae Carnis, a series themed around a separate race of creatures living alongside humans, with some ranging from household pets to others being apex predators. Just like in any analog horror, the game provides us with everything we need for this story, but it's going to be up to us whether we will piece the puzzle together properly in order to understand it, which is something I'm going to try to do in this very video. In terms of graphics, the game is rather simple. Most of the time we will be facing one of two screens. The main menu screen, where we will be able to begin our game, tweak various settings including a rather long list of phobias, and read emails from our office that are going to serve as a means to relay further parts of the story. Progressing to the game, we will also gain access to various videos that, reminiscent of analog horror, have a nostalgic and disturbing theme around them, each one of those videos containing either a clue or a story that serves towards world building. The second screen we'll be facing most of our gameplay is the office screen, where we'll be able to read our database entries, answer calls, and submit responses, which are going to be rated by the end of each day with an accuracy system. We're informed from the beginning that finishing a day with a good accuracy will reward us with some coupons. The roll is purely for flavor text, as we are not able to actually purchase any of the items we will be receiving discounts for. Beginning on Monday, we receive a call from our supervisor Carol. She welcomes us, explaining our role in the company, urging us to begin working.
Welcome to Home Safety Hotline, new employee. My name is Carol, and I'll be acting as your supervisor during your time here at HSH. Before you begin your first day here, let me tell you a bit about how things work here. You are an HSH responder. As such, it is your job to learn about various household hazards so you can answer the questions of our callers intelligently. When a client calls, answer the call and listen carefully to their concerns. When you've diagnosed their issue, submit the corresponding household hazard, and we'll forward them safety instructions to address their problem. Welcome to the HSH family. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
With a bit of time before our first call, we can get familiarized with a database, where we can find various entries for different household pests such as mice, bedbugs, cockroaches, black mold, moles, and so on. So far, nothing seems out of the ordinary. Just our first day of work as a call center operator in a pest removal company. If we are the kind of readers that like to pay attention to details, we might find that a couple of entries have some bizarre descriptions. The mice entry describes them as worthless rodents, which at first makes sense given that we work for a pest removal company, but that wording is never used on any of the other entries, making it seem almost personal. Who knows? Perhaps whoever wrote this really dislikes mice. The second, more bizarre entry is the one for moles. While the description for moles is rather on point, there are two details that can strike us as odd. The first one is the entry detailing that moles have close relations to the ones beneath the soil, which can cause further damage if provoked. The second weird detail is that the solution states in all caps a clear warning that one should never kill a mole. We are not given any further information on why and who the ones beneath the soil are, but it seems clear from this that things will begin taking a weird turn soon enough. Speaking of things taking a turn for the weird side, on our first day we receive a call from someone with a seemingly disfigured face named Twig Sigmund. The voice sounds odd, but only a few seconds into the call and we realize that we are dealing with a prank caller, who immediately proceeds to hang up the phone afterwards. The disfigured face being most likely edited with over-exaggerated facial features from the prank caller himself for, added comedic value.
Twig Sigmund here. Just calling to inform you that your refrigerator's been running wild over here for the past 45 to 90 minutes. Been running wild. Better head on over and catch it, big fella.
Note that this guy will not be a one-off incident, and his appearance will become a stable presence throughout the game. With our first day of work wrapped up, we receive our accuracy score and return to the main menu, where we can notice something new. We got mail. 2 new mails, in fact. The first one is from corporate. It tells us that due to some kind of network error, we might start finding videos on our computers, which we should ignore. The second mail has a rather more disturbing turn. Grossly misspelled, it is essentially a warning from someone named Mike that used to work at the same company as us, telling us that we don't know enough and we should quit our job before it's too late. Ominous for sure, but lacking any kind of details attributes this message a very confusing tone as well. Who is Mike? What is he warning us against? And why is the mail written so horribly? Speaking of videos on our desktop, there is one available there since day one titled televisioncommercial.mv, and is essentially what the title promises, a commercial showcasing the HSH company pest removal services. Seemingly normal at first, includes an odd section regarding metamorphosis, with a rather creepy entity thing just out of sight in the dark. With no details offered, we are further even more confused. We begin our Tuesday with a new call from our supervisor Carol informing us that we have been granted access to new files on the database, and now we start seeing what the game is really about.
I'm calling to let you know that you have been granted access to additional household hazard information. Please be aware that this information is confidential and not to be shared with anyone outside of HSH. If you diagnose one of these hazards, we will be providing only information to the clients that is pertinent to addressing their concerns. Nothing more. Thank you.
Despite the first new entry being about bats, which mentions them having relations with the ones above the soil, we begin entering a rabbit hole of creatures we never even knew existed. Giant slugs, hobs, parasites disguising themselves as vegetables, carnivore fungi hiding in pipes. Our pest collection has grown significantly with a large new variety of apparently common household entities in this world. The most interesting ones being the hobs. By reading the entries, we can notice that every hob has something in common with the rest. They tend to keep the place they are inhabiting clean, they cannot be removed from the household, and must be appeased with various types of food at night, like cheese or cream, and if one fails to do so, they will undergo metamorphosis. It is the second time that metamorphosis is mentioned now, and by the look of these entries, it seems to be something that you'd want to desperately avoid happening. Yet, we are given no explanation on what it is or what its consequences are. It is clear that it implies some sort of transformation by the hob's part, but what kind of transformation will warrant us to go such lengths of leaving food offerings every night just to avoid it from happening? With another prank call from our friend, this time with an even further distorted face, taking the alias of Buzz Goober. Our day is concluded, and we can begin to once again move further into the rabbit hole.
Yo, Buzz Goober here. Been having a heck of a time over here. I got these snappers itching and whooping and crying all over the place. Just all over the place I got these whippersnappers yelping and whining, and I can't get a wink of sleep. She's trying to lay down over here. What's she gonna do about all this? I've called about 5,500 times and y'all haven't done a thing about it.
While most of the calls are rather easy to deal with, some can be confusing due to the limited amount of information we receive, and it's not uncommon to get a few of them wrong, especially if it's our first playthrough and we haven't exactly been paying too much attention. If we send the wrong information to a client, not only our accuracy score will lower down, but we'll also receive a follow-up call, either on the same day or the next day from the client itself. Most of the time, it's going to be the client calling to complain about our services, shouting angrily that he won't call us ever again.
John here again. I got beef with you. Your people gave me bad info. What you sent us didn't have anything to do with our problem. I'll be sure to tell our friends not to be bothered calling.
But a few of those times, the follow-up calls we receive might be of a far more disturbing nature. There is one specifically where a client calls to complain about someone entering his home to rearrange his stuff on the desk.
Do you guys handle security? I need home security installed. Someone's breaking into my house and going through all my stuff at night. I know it's Bob from accounting. He's always been envious of me. I know what you're doing, Bob. Going through my papers, taunting me with your organization skills. I need your best home security equipment. Pronto!
Well, the client believes the culprit is his coworker Bob, attempting to annoy him with his organizational skill. The true culprit is a desk hob, another creature that should be identified as soon as possible and appeased with offerings in order to avoid metamorphosis. Of course, we can relay the wrong information to our client, which will lead the hob metamorphosing, something that will be revealed in the follow-up call.
It wasn't Bob from accounting! It wasn't Bob at all! I saw it scurry away! Why didn't you warn me? What is this nonsense info you sent me? Why is it growing bigger? Get away! Stay back!
We'll now find on our desk a new video, as corporate previously stated we could. If we decide to open it, we'll find a real estate video advertisement by Real Estate Update. Whether this company also belongs to HSH as a subsidiary is unknown, but it's probably likely due to the video coming from one of their archives. The video showcases various houses for sale, but halfway through an alert is displayed warning the viewer against a recent child abduction and a reported suspect running around barefoot and wearing some kind of bush or shrub, probably to conceal its identity and camouflage through the neighborhoods.
This is a missing persons alert. Authorities are currently looking for missing child Robbie Parker, male, brown hair, approximately 4 feet tall, last seen wearing a yellow shirt, brown shorts, and white tennis shoes. Suspect is described to be approximately 6 feet tall, barefoot, wearing a large bush or shrub on their person. Last seen at approximately 10:25 a.m. Please report any unusual activity to your local authorities.
In our emails, we receive another message from Mike, in the same completely broken style as before. He tells us that if we end up like him, we can join him in a hole that he proceeds to send a picture of, again with no further context. Another email from corporate warns us that we might experience network errors during our work, which will cut off our access to the database entry, meaning that from this point on in the game we'll be required to remember the entries by memory, as there will be moments where we won't have access to the database, but we'll still be required to know the correct answers. Wednesday begins, and we are once again granted by Carol access to more files in the database. Out of all, one is particularly important, and that's the entry for the Bogart. The Bogart is the result of a metamorphosis. It is the answer to what happens when the Hobbs aren't appeased, and it is essentially described as everyone's worst nightmare. A creature that hides through the house, causing power outages, house fires, and further problems, with its danger extending to the point where seeing the Bogart itself or letting the Bogart know that we are aware of its presence will cause it to stop hiding and become incredibly aggressive, turning essentially into a hunter, and you the prey. The Bogart is, essentially in my opinion, one of the most terrifying database entries, not because of its design, as it simply resembles your local meth head, but rather by its implication. Try and put yourself in the following situation. Imagine you're chilling in front of the television one night. You suddenly hear a noise coming from the kitchen, so you decide to go up and investigate it. You find that something has gone through your plates, and all you see is a small furry creature lurking away in the corner of your eye. You don't think of much at first, so you decide to simply put down some traps for rats and go to bed. Within the following week, the noises don't stop. Every night you can hear something is going through your kitchen, but you can never see it, except for a few glimpses every now and then. So you decide to rearrange your traps, this time closer to the plates, with an even further appetizing bait. You go to sleep, wake up following morning, and check on your traps. Bingo! The trap snapped. But there is no rat. There is nothing, in fact, just a trail of blood from the trap that leads to a crack in the wall. Whatever it was that triggered the trap managed to free itself of it and went into hiding. But as night comes and you don't hear noises any longer, you assume that whatever it was decided to simply run away from the house or died to its wounds somewhere. It seems like the problem is now solved. Life resumes as normal. But after a week, you notice that one of your lamps is broken. The day after, you wake up to your bathroom sink overflowing. How is that possible? You could have sworn you had turned it off before going to bed. You decide to relax in front of the TV when there's suddenly a power outage. With a flashlight in hand, you restart the breaker in the basement as you hear the noise of something scurrying around. It is now obvious that whatever it was that you caught in the trap hadn't died nor left the place. It was back, and it was bent and causing much more trouble than last time. It had to be definitely bigger than a rat. Perhaps a raccoon? But raccoons don't cause power outages, do they? You've never heard of a raccoon chewing on a cable or starting sinks? Whatever it is, it's time to call in the experts. You have attempted to solve the problem yourself and obviously failed. So better let the professionals handle it. With phone in hand, you recall the number you just saw previously during an ad break on the television. You call, describe your issue, and the operator on the other side suddenly goes quiet. Hello? You say, unsure whether they hung up on you or not. The operator instructs you to quietly leave your home without offering an explanation. You ask why. Why should you leave your own home all of a sudden, especially without any kind of explanation? The operator hangs up, but soon you are sent an info packet. Now, all you have to do is leave your home, calmly, acting as normal as possible and ignoring the heavy breathing behind you that you suddenly became so aware of. On a lighter tone, our prank caller is back, this time with an even further distorted face, bearing the name of Fred Pinball. Just how long will it take before this guy gets bored? It's not like we are entertaining his shenanigans by providing any kind of answer, after all.
Name's Fred Pinball. I'm calling to lodge a complaint against your place of business up there. I have never seen such a big old mess left behind by your pest control team. Just tons of twigs, sticks, and pebbles. Sawed, and I ain't putting up with it no more. I got sawdust coming out my drawers here. I had to grab you by the goober and smack you around till next Sunday. Now, what's you gonna do? What's you gonna do to make this right?
Another interesting entry we are granted access to is the false rose bush. A rose bush with two legs that chases and preys down on children by swallowing them whole. Sounds familiar? It could be a coincidence, but wasn't the suspect in the child abduction case that was mentioned earlier seen wearing a bush and standing barefoot? It might seem obvious at first, but I think that what we are meant to get away out of this is not that a false rosebush has eaten a kid, rather that these creatures are not of public knowledge. The general population, the police, and society as a whole is not aware of gnomes and fairies, but that doesn't make them any less real, which leads us to ask ourselves, just how many of the people you have told that have a hob in their house actually believed you? One for sure didn't, as at the end of the day we receive a call from someone who informs us that, upon calling previously, our company has advised him to leave a bowl of cream out at night.
Last week, I called you guys about some weird noises I had coming from my living room, and the info package you sent me said something about leaving out a bowl of cream? What kind of joke is that? It's been a week now that I've been dealing with this racket, no thanks to you, and now we're starting to have power outages. Your employee's stupid joke is now probably going to cost me who knows how much in repair costs. So talk to your manager and tell them they owe me big time. You figure out what's going on in my house, and you figure it out now!
Our caller regarded that as nonsense and decided to ignore the advice and is now dealing with a boggart all of a sudden. It is clear that the general population is simply not aware of these creatures, and it is reflected through the way callers talk to you and describe their problems. With Wednesday finally over, we receive a new mail from corporate, informing us that the office now has a new coworker, an orange cat named Whiskers. The email asks us to kindly refrain from picking it up and feeding it, and we find ourselves with a new video on our desktop, this one describing a new species of mice, suddenly discovered by researchers much smarter than the average mice, capable of communicating.
Mice, one of humanity's oldest friends and oldest enemies. From the Black Plague to the shelves of our pet stores, mice have lived alongside humans for centuries. And just like humans, mice may even be evolving alongside us as well. This is a mus musculus, otherwise known as the common house mouse. And this is Mus musculus loquentis, otherwise known as the smart mouse, a newly discovered species known for its uniquely colored iris, and more importantly, its increased intelligence. Mice have brains smaller than peanuts, and yet, modern science has observed they are capable of thinking quite intelligently, and in the case of the smart mouse, perhaps even capable of communication. With the help of modern computer technology, today's scientists have been able to interpret the previously indecipherable squeaks of a smart mouse, and have discovered what seems to be hidden messages within. Let's take a listen. What do you think? Is this a wonder of evolution? Or are we just hearing things that aren't there? Do mice and men have more in common than previously thought? Well, I suppose that's what makes this a science mystery.
With this video we can piece together more information that leads us to a horrifying discovery. That is the fate of our coworker Mike. That is what happened to him. For some reason, he was transformed into a mouse that has retained its human intelligence. That's why the emails we received from Mike were written so badly, as they were being typed not by a pair of human hands, pressing buttons on a keyboard, rather by a rodent jumping around over the keys, attempting its best to warn the new employee that has taken place that this is probably the fate that awaits him if they were to underperform. And if such thing were to actually happen, they could join him in a mouse-sized hole located in the office. Speaking of which, remember when I mentioned that you can send wrong information to clients? If you were to send too many wrong information within a single day, the following will happen.
Employee, Supervisor Carol here. We've been watching you for some time, and I must say that we have been rather disappointed in your performance here. Many of our callers' lives have been altered for the worse thanks to your negligent answers. Your failure to treat your work here with the gravity it deserves has unfortunately forced us to make a very difficult choice in regards to your continued employment at HSH. Effective immediately, your employment here has been terminated. We wish you the best in your future endeavors.
It seems that HSH takes termination in a far more literal sense than intended, which also leads us to believe that the whole reason they have adopted a cat in the office and asked employees to refrain from feeding it is in order to hunt down Mike, who is still hiding within the confines of the building. This also seemed to explain why mice are being described as worthless in the database entry, because that's the fate that awaits worthless or underperforming employees, being transformed into a mouse. This could all be an allegory that references how working in corporate is basically a rat race, but I am not going to get into too much detail of that. Thursday begins. Another call from Carol, more entries granted to the database. Today, though, the difficulty amps up, with some of the calls containing information that is not relevant to the issue to throw us off, and other calls coming with network errors, meaning that we can only solve them by memory. Thursday is a day that tests whether you actually have been not only reading carefully and in detail every entry, but also memorized and applied correctly the information received. Another Oscar to comedy goes to Gub Rubber with another prank.
Cub Rubber here. I need to place an order of 60 gallons of orange drink here. I got a big old party I'm setting up here at the studio, and we're gonna need that orange drink to too many mouths to feed, you know what I mean? Gonna need that orange drink to feed my crew. On second thought, y'all still got that cheesy greaser. Too many mouths. Maybe pepper squeeze. Don't tell me you don't got the pepper squeeze.
A few more calls follow, and Thursday is over as well. With the day over, we now have another email. The last one we will ever receive from Mike, in a clearly distressed tone. We can see that Whiskers has managed to find Mike and breach his hole, with no further emails being ever received from Mike. We can only assume that he was either captured by Whiskers or has vacated the premises of the building entirely. I always like to talk about how details are important in analog horror and in games that try to convey a story. And while this game has plenty of great details, there were some that also didn't sit quite right with me. One of them being, how was Mike able to take a picture and send it to us? The first one, realistically speaking, was still possible. Perhaps it was taken already before and it was just a coincidence that the hole was present in the picture as well. But if he's a mouse, how was he capable of carrying a camera inside of the wall, align it perfectly towards the hole, take a picture of Whiskers only to leave the hole later on, connect the camera to the computer and send it to us afterwards? There might be something more to this than what I'm getting, and if that's the case, I'd like for someone to let me know down in the comments. But I personally believe that this specific part was not thought too well from the developer. I understand that this is also part of the puzzle and it is meant to serve as a clue to further cement the fact that Mike has been turned into a mouse, but it could have been done in a more different and realistic manner. As much as realism can go in a game like this, at least. Another new oddity is also present. This time on our desktop background we can observe a figure in the distance, likely observing us, wandering the landscape of the grassy hill with seemingly no specific purpose. Except in this, nothing else is new, and we are ready to begin our next day. Friday. Another day, another bunch of new entries to read and study. This time we receive even more calls than usual. It seems that as our reliability in the company is growing by being granted access to even more entries, a higher number of clients are also being redirected to us. We have proven that we are more than capable of handling most issues, and corporate is giving us even more to work with. By now it is clearly obvious that Carol is either not human herself or works with non-humans, as she claims that our performance has been impressive for those above and beneath the soil. Apart from having more and more in your face type of entries and calls, The most notable event on Friday is another call from our prankster, this time bearing the name of Flipper. He starts by going on about how he needs a set of weights polished, but the call takes on a more disturbing turn by the end.
Hey, Flipper here. I've got two dumbbells that I bought from you that need a good spit shine. Know what I mean? These bells have got all kinds of grit, grime, grease. Can't even see my face in them when I'm deadlifting. Know what I mean? I'm looking at these bells right now here. I'm seeing spit, crud, and juice, and
Hey, who are you? How did you get in? Hey, now easy there. Get away. Get away.
It seems like the prank caller became victim of the same sorcery that affected Mike and got turned into a mouse as well. Carol makes it obvious afterwards that HSH is the one behind it and urges you to resume your duties.
Hello, Supervisor Carol here. I noticed that you've been experiencing regular, disruptive calls from a false caller with ulterior motives. I've seen to it that this false caller shall no longer be a blight upon me. Keep up the good work, employee.
As the day ends, we can notice that the figure we have noticed previously on our desktop has now moved closer. There is a theory around stating that this figure is someone that has entered a portal, but there isn't enough information to confirm it. We also have found a new video on our desktop regarding a tutorial on how to climb a hiking spot. Everything seems normal, excepting the part that suggests us to take an iron sword with us to use in a certain part of the hike, namely the quiet zone. I believe this might reference the fact that the quiet zone is inhabited by Fays, as in folklore Fays are weak to and repelled by iron. Saturday is the day where we are being granted access to every single entry. There are no mysteries left for us any longer, and with a high amount of calls, we'll have to now apply all of our knowledge to pass the day. We also received another call from Flipper, who now turned into a mouse we can only assume is attempting to call for help. The day goes by and we approach the game's end. Before Sunday begins, our desktop changes. There is now a large gaping hole in the middle. The figure is there no more and we have access to every entry from the main menu. It seems like the game wants for us to read everything once more before Sunday, and that will be indeed the wisest move. As you see, Sunday is the final day. Sunday is where you're put to trial. You are contacted not by distressed customers in need for help, rather by mysterious hooded figures asking various riddles. Each one of the riddles requires an entry as an answer, but we do not have any access to the database anymore. Everything from this point will have to do not only by memory, but will also require correct interpretation of the riddles. One of the caller's face resembles a mole, more accurately a star-snouted mole, which might be the explanation for the mole's database entry, the one stating that we should never under any circumstance kill a mole. The riddles keep pouring in from what we can believe to be the leaders of this company. They are testing us and testing our knowledge, and with our successful passing of this exam, a scene where we are promoted plays out, and the game ends.
Closely. For all this time, you have been providing excellent and accurate answers to our callers. These acts will not go unrewarded, and I'm pleased to report that you have qualified for a promotion. Please stand by while I prepare thy promotion. Promotion in progress. Please stand by.
Please, be not afraid. Come close. Congratulations! All hail our new junior supervisor!
Regine, promotionen in secula contractus regine, promotionen. Regine, promotionen in secula contractus regine, promotionen. Regine, odelire, haederum cahudete, mahavum desiderio, moamemus dime hamus. Regine, odelire, haederum cahudete, mahavum desiderio, moamemus dime hamus. Regine, promotionem in secula contractus regine.
With the game concluded, we are granted access to an art book, containing and explaining the creative process of the developer for the game, which was really nice to read through. It explained that analog horror was indeed a main source of inspiration for the game, with the idea of deadly and mischievous creatures being capable of living inside your own home, adding to the horror aspect of it. In conclusion, I will say that the game was pretty cool, and despite explaining every day of it, I have left out most of the calls and entries, so if you haven't, I will still recommend trying it out yourselves and supporting the developer. It is rare for small games to bring ideas as good and original as this one, and I believe it was fully worth both the price and the time I spent on it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel, as it motivates me to churn further content out. I bid you all a good night, and I'll see you on my next video.